So the Clippers have lost their 9th straight game last night. Do you know how hard it is to lose 9 straight? I'm just going to go ahead and give you the answer. It's very hard. Usually somewhere in there you win a game by accident, you run into a bad team on a back-to-back, or some random bench player gets hot. It goes without saying this is the longest losing streak in the NBA this season, but it's also interesting to note this is more than twice as many losses in a row than LA ever had with Chris Paul in the lineup. You remember the sniping between CP3 and the Clippers during the offseason? You know, when CP said the culture of the organization wasn't competitive enough for him, and LA's players and coaches answered back that Chris riding everyone so hard may have had something to do with their chemistry issues. Well, now he's gone, and I wouldn't say things are better at the moment. And look, don't take just my word for it. Ask Patrick Beverley. Here is what he told the LA Times last night. Quote, "This feels like 100 losses, straight up. This, expletive, is weak. This ain't how I roll. That ain't okay." Beverley said that he's challenged the Clips' first unit for being too cool, noting, quote, "We come on the court like people are supposed to back down to us because of the name on the back of our jerseys. That's not the case. The only thing people are looking at is the name on the front of our jersey, and that's 9 losses in a row." Now, it's important to note, Beverley is only just back from a knee injury that kept him out 5 games. His absence, along with injuries to fellow opening night starters Dino Gallinari, Milos Teodosic, they've certainly been part of why the Clippers have been losing. This is not a team known for its depth. But hey, Boston won a game earlier this month when they played all but 2 minutes without Gordon Hayward or Al Horford or Kyrie Irving in the lineup. I mean, at some point during a 3-week period, even if you have injuries, you should be able to pull out 1 win from your gym bag, especially when you do still have Blake Griffin and DeAndre Jordan on the floor. The Clippers could start with, I don't know, trying harder on defense because theirs has been the worst in the league during this stretch. They could also try a little ball movement. Their assist stats have been terrible. Or, as Beverley notes, they could also simply find their fight and their pride. We know they've got plenty of it. It is time to put it to use. Brian, when you're looking long-term here, do you panic if you're the Clippers? Do you have a little patience?
Well, every conversation about this has to start with the fact that they have the injuries, which you mentioned. Beverley is back now. But when I talk to guys around the league over these last 4 or 5 days, this is the topic they all want to talk about. This is a very difficult team-building moment for the Clippers. And one of the things the executives are saying is if they get a couple of weeks down the line here, mid-December. December 15th is an important day in the NBA. That's when all the players in the league are eligible to be traded. If they're still sitting in this position where they're, towards the bottom of the standings, maybe it's time to look at the fact that this draft is deep. Maybe it's time to start looking at what you could get for DeAndre Jordan, Patrick Beverley. They're not there yet, and the injuries buy them a little time, but this is something that's rushing at them fast, and not something they were expecting when they started the year off 4-0.
I would be surprised if there wasn't something in the back of their minds that was expecting them to have to make this sort of decision. Because, I mean, if you look at this team, when you say patience, Rachel, what are they being patient for? For this season? For the future? Because I think for this season it's pretty clear. They are at best a second-tier team in the Western Conference and more likely a third-tier team in the Western Conference, no? And so if you're talking about what the end game is going to be for this year, you'd say, okay, have some patience, maybe make the playoffs so we don't sell off DeAndre Jordan or Blake Griffin or what have you. But in the long term, what is Blake Griffin? Is he a centerpiece leading man for a great team? I don't think he is. I think he is a good player, an all-star player.
That's kind of what they're learning right now. Without Chris Paul to go to, at the end of these games, they're going to Blake.
I don't think you can make that pronouncement yet. The first 4 games, as you noted, he looked great, and so you have to kind of see where this team shakes out. And by the way, they had the opportunity to make that decision about Blake this past summer. They made it. So I'm not sure that you backtrack from that even a couple months into the season.
With trading away a first-round pick to get Danilo Gallinari.
No, not saying they need to move away from him.
That was not a let's rebuild mode.
Right. I'm not saying they need to move away from him. I just think the idea of him as the clear centerpiece of a team, of a great team, I don't think it's realistic. He's not that type of player.
You bring up a good point, though, of what are you trying to do? And look, we all watched the Thunder last season. They had a huge player face their franchise move away, And they could have just sort of scrapped and said, okay, we're going to rebuild, or this season's going to be kind of a loss. And instead, Russell Westbrook powered them to a really, remarkable season for the franchise. No, it did not end up in a string of playoff series victories, but I think it was certainly a building block for their team. You'd have to think the Clippers were hoping to emulate this year and sort of bridge them to whatever is next. That's what the patience would be for.
Yeah.
I don't know if they're going to have
the roster
it, though.
makeup is sketchy.
I don't know. I should note, by the way, that they next tomorrow night play the Hawks, who've lost 14 of their last 17. So, hey, you know how it is in the NBA way. You can get well soon.
Something's got to